The music was loud, the laughter even louder, but none of it reached me. I sat behind the last row of chairs, close enough to see the smiles, yet far enough to feel invisible. Everyone was dressed in gold and white, clinking glasses, taking pictures, celebrating love. And there I was, a ghost at my own brother's wedding. They had told me to sit there. Somewhere at the back, Lena, we don't want any drama today. Their words still echoed in my head, sharp and cold. I kept my eyes on the stage where my brother Adam stood, glowing with joy beside his new bride. He looked happy, genuinely happy, and for a moment, that was enough for me. Still, a tiny part of me wished he'd look my way. Just once. A glance, a nod, a sign that I still existed in his world. But he didn't. None of them did. I folded my hands on my lap, forcing a smile that no one would notice. The music swelled, cameras flashed, and I tried to remind myself why I came, not to be seen, but to say goodbye to the bitterness that had haunted me for years. And then, as the lights dimmed and the best man took the microphone, I felt a strange shift in the air. His voice broke through the noise, calm but steady. Before I end this speech, he said, "There's something this family needs to hear." My heart stopped. I didn't know it then, but those words were about to change everything. Adam and I used to be inseparable. When we were kids, he was my shadow, always tagging along, always defending me when I got into trouble. We'd build blanket forts in the living room, steal cookies from the kitchen, and swear we'd never let anything come between us. But childhood promises rarely survive adulthood. As we grew older, the cracks began to show. Our mother had her favorites, and it wasn't a secret who it was. Adam, the golden child, the pride of the family. He was brilliant, polite, and everything I wasn't. Whenever he walked into a room, her face lit up. Whenever I did, it dimmed. I tried to ignore it. I tried to believe that love couldn't be divided, only shared. But things changed a year. My father got sick. While the rest of the family turned away, I stayed by his side. I nursed him through sleepless nights, listened to his regrets, and held his hand when he took his last breath. He wasn't perfect. I knew that better than anyone, but he was still my father. When he died, I thought the pain would bring us closer. Instead, it tore us apart. My mother called me a traitor. My aunts whispered that I had disgraced the family. Adam didn't say a word, not in my defense, not even in private. From that day on, I became the black sheep. My name disappeared from family group chats. My seat at the table was filled by silence. Yet, despite everything, I never stopped caring for Adam. I watched him from afar, his promotions, his engagement, his life moving forward while mine stood still. So when the wedding invitation finally arrived, I thought maybe, just maybe, this was a sign that forgiveness had found its way home. But deep down, I knew better. It arrived on an ordinary Wednesday. A plain white envelope slipped through the mail slot, no handwriting on the front, just my name printed in neat black letters, Lena Moore. For a moment, I just stared at it. My hands trembled slightly as I turned it over, feeling the weight of something that wasn't just paper. It was a past I thought I'd buried. Inside was a wedding invitation. Adam Moore and Sophie Green joyfully invite you to celebrate their marriage. My breath caught in my throat. After all these years of silence, after being erased from birthdays, holidays, and family dinners, my brother was finally reaching out. Or so I thought. But then I noticed something strange. The handwriting on the RSVP card wasn't Adam's. It was Sophie's, his fiancée's. Tucked inside was a short note written in her delicate cursive. "Lena, I know things have been difficult between you and the family, but Adam still talks about you. I thought you should be there to see him happy. Sophie." I sat there for a long time, reading it over and over. My heart twisted with 1,000 emotions. Hope, fear, anger, love. Did Adam even know she invited me? Or was this just Sophie's kindness trying to mend something too broken to fix? That night, I stood by my window, staring out at the city lights. A part of me whispered to let it go, to protect myself from more pain. But another part, the one that still remembered the boy who once built forts with me and called me his favorite sister, couldn't resist. I bought a gift the next morning, a silver photo frame engraved with the words, "Family is forever." I wrapped it carefully, unaware that by the end of that wedding night, those words would mean something entirely different. The wedding day arrived bathed in gold sunlight, the kind that makes everything look perfect even when it isn't. The venue was a grand hotel ballroom, decorated with white roses and soft candlelight. Laughter floated through the air, mingling with the clinking of champagne glasses and the slow hum of a live piano. Everyone was glowing. Everyone except me. I stood near the entrance, clutching my small gift bag, trying to blend in. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. I hadn't seen my family in years. Every step forward felt like walking into a memory I wasn't sure I wanted to relive. When my mother spotted me, her expression froze. The smile she'd been wearing for guests vanished instantly. She leaned in close, her voice cold but quiet enough not to make a scene. "Sit in the back, Lena. Don't make this day about you." It was like being slapped with words. But I nodded, swallowing the ache in my throat. I didn't come to start a war. I came to see my brother. I found a chair behind one of the tall floral arrangements, half hidden from view. From there, I watched everything. Adam greeting relatives, Sophie glowing in her white gown, our family laughing together as if I'd never existed. When Adam's eyes finally met mine, just for a second, something flickered there, surprise, maybe guilt. But he quickly looked away, his smile snapping back into place with the photographer. That single moment hurt more than all the years of silence combined. Throughout the ceremony, I sat quietly. The vows were beautiful, the music tender. Everyone clapped and cheered when they kissed. I clapped too, softly, though no one noticed. Later, during the dinner, I felt completely invisible. Conversations floated around me. Laughter rolled through the air, and yet I might as well have been a shadow. Waiters passed me by without a glance. No one sat next to me. Still, I stayed. I told myself I owed Adam that much. I watched him dance with our mother, her hand on his cheek, her eyes glistening with pride. And as I sat there, half in the dark, half in the glow of the fairy lights, I wondered, how could a family look so complete when one piece of it is missing? Dinner was served, laughter echoing across the hall like music I wasn't allowed to dance to. The long tables glittered with silverware and crystal glasses, plates filled with food that smelled far too elegant to touch. Except for mine. No one joined my table. Not one relative. Not even a distant cousin. The chairs around me stayed empty, their white covers untouched, their wine glasses bone dry. It was as if an invisible wall surrounded me, one I hadn't built, but everyone respected. I sat there quietly, forcing a small smile every time someone's gaze accidentally brushed past me. When waiters came by, they hesitated, glancing toward my mother before serving me half-heartedly, like I wasn't supposed to exist but couldn't be completely ignored. At one point, I heard my aunt's voice from a nearby table. She had some nerve showing up after everything she did, she whispered. Another replied, "It's embarrassing for Adam. She should have stayed away." I wanted to scream that I hadn't done anything wrong, that I'd only loved our father when no one else would. But my throat locked. Years of silence had taught me that defending myself only made the noise louder. So I kept eating slowly, one bite at a time, pretending not to hear. When the music started again, couples rose to dance. My mother and Adam were in the center, spinning under the soft lights. Her laughter rang through the room, the same laughter that used to fill our kitchen when I was a child. For a brief second, I saw the family we used to be, then the memory shattered. I lowered my gaze, blinking away the sting in my eyes. My reflection in the glass of water looked calm, but inside, I was breaking. And yet I stayed. I stayed because I needed to see this through, the final act of a family that had long stopped being mine. I didn't know that before the night ended, someone else would speak the words I'd been too afraid to say. The lights dimmed, and the room fell into a warm hush. Golden fairy lights flickered across the ceiling as a waiter tapped a glass for attention. The music faded, replaced by the soft feedback of a microphone being adjusted. Adam's best friend, Morris, stepped forward. He was tall, confident, the kind of man whose smile could make a room relax. He'd been in our lives since childhood. I remembered him tagging along to our backyard games, always chasing after Adam, always kind to me. Ladies and gentlemen, Morris began, his voice smooth and steady, I've known Adam for over 20 years. We've shared secrets, laughter, and more than a few bad decisions. Laughter rippled through the guests. Even I smiled, though quietly. He continued, telling stories about Adam's college days, his sense of humor, his kindness. The crowd loved every word. But I noticed something different. His tone wasn't just joyful. It carried a strange weight beneath the laughter, as if he was leading somewhere none of us expected. Then he paused, glancing at Adam, then briefly toward the back, toward me. Adam, he said slowly, you've always been like a brother to me, and I've seen you go through things that changed you. But there's something I think this family should remember tonight. The room grew still. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her seat. The air suddenly felt thicker, heavier. Morris continued, his voice quieter now. I know this is your special day, but I can't stand here and pretend I don't see the one person in this room who deserves to be acknowledged and isn't. Every head turned slightly, following his gaze. My heart started to race. He took a breath. Adam, do you remember the last time we spoke about your father? About how regret keeps people silent longer than guilt ever could? Adam froze. I could see his expression change, that same flicker of fear and shame I'd seen in his eyes earlier. Morris went on, steady and unshaken. There's someone here who carried pain this family never thanked her for. Someone who chose love when everyone else chose anger. His eyes met mine again. And in that moment I knew he was talking about me. The whispers started instantly, spreading to the hall like wildfire. My mother's face hardened. Adam looked down, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the table. Morris cleared his throat softly. Before I finish, I think it's time this truth is finally spoken out loud. The silence that followed was deafening. The sound of Morris's voice seemed to echo through the entire ballroom, bouncing off chandeliers and golden walls. The laughter that had filled the room minutes ago vanished completely. He took a slow breath, scanning the crowd before he spoke again. I wasn't planning to say this, he began, his tone firm but calm, but sometimes silence does more harm than honesty ever could. My heart pounded in my chest. My palms were cold. My fingers locked together in my lap. Morris turned toward Adam. You once told me, when your father passed away, that your sister was the only one who stayed with him, that she was there in the hospital when no one else showed up. You said you'd never forgive yourself for not standing by her. The hall felt utterly silent. You could hear the faint hum of the air conditioner. The clink of a fork dropped somewhere far away. People began whispering. Faces turned toward me. Morris went on, his voice gentle now. I know it's not my place, but Lena didn't deserve to be pushed out of this family. She didn't betray anyone. She showed love when everyone else turned away. My mother's eyes widened, her lips parting as if to stop him, but Morris didn't waver. Adam, I remember how you cried that night, he said, his words cutting like glass. You said you wanted to tell her you were proud, but you never did. You said your mother wouldn't understand. Maybe tonight it's time she does. All eyes were now fixed on my brother. He looked frozen, his jaw tight, eyes glistening. Sophie, his new wife, placed a gentle hand on his arm, whispering something I couldn't hear. Then, slowly, Adam stood up. He looked out across the room, then down at me, and for the first time in years, he truly looked at me. His voice trembled. Morris is right. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mother's expression collapsed, her perfectly painted smile fading. Adam's voice cracked as he continued. Lena, I was a coward. You took care of Dad when I couldn't. I let them turn you into the villain because I was too afraid to stand up to them. Tears blurred my vision. I hadn't expected this. Not here, not now. He stepped down from the stage and walked toward me. The room watched in stunned silence as he stopped right in front of me. I'm sorry, he whispered, voice breaking, for every time I stayed quiet when I should have been your brother. When he pulled me into a hug, it felt like the years of distance between us finally shattered. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel invisible anymore. For a long moment, no one moved. The music had stopped, the chatter silenced. Only the faint hum of the lights filled the air. Adam's arms were still around me, his voice shaking as he whispered, "I'm sorry." And then, slowly, I heard another sound, my mother's heels clicking against the marble floor. She walked toward us, her expression unreadable. Her perfect posture had wilted. Her lipstick, once flawless, had begun to tremble at the corners. The woman who'd always seemed untouchable suddenly looked small. "Adam," she said softly, "enough. You've said what you needed to say." But when her gaze met mine, something shifted. The mask she'd worn for years, the pride, the coldness, cracked. I saw the flicker of guilt, the memory of all the words she'd thrown at me. "Lena," she whispered, as if saying my name hurt. "I told myself you'd turn your back on us. I said you chose your father over me, because it was easier to be angry than to be hurt." Her voice quivered. But maybe I was the one who turned my back first. I didn't know what to say. My heart ached, torn between the pain of the past and the fragile hope standing in front of me. She reached out, hesitant, unsure, and placed her hand on my cheek. It was the first time she'd touched me in years. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I let my pride ruin what family we had left." Tears welled in my eyes. I covered her hand with mine, not ready to forgive, but ready to start trying. Around us, the crowd stayed silent, watching something far more powerful than any wedding vow. A family finally facing the truth. For the first time that night, I didn't feel like a guest. I felt like a daughter again. After my mother's words, silence lingered, but it wasn't cold anymore. It felt heavy with emotion, thick with everything that had been unsaid for years. Then, slowly, the guests began to clap. It started hesitantly. A few scattered claps, uncertain and soft, but soon the sound grew louder, echoing through the hall. Not out of celebration, but out of respect. Respect for honesty. Respect for truth. Adam wiped his eyes and managed a shaky laugh. "Well," he said into the microphone, "guess our family knows how to throw a memorable wedding." The laughter that followed wasn't mocking. It was warm, relieving. The tension that had clung to the air all evening began to fade. My mother turned to Morris, her voice quiet but sincere. "Thank you," she said. "You shouldn't have been the one to fix what we broke, but I'm grateful you did." Morris gave a small nod, placing the microphone back on the table. "Sometimes," he said gently, "it just takes one honest word to heal years of silence." Adam walked me to the front of the hall, hand in hand, as though he wanted the entire family to see that I wasn't the outcast anymore. He introduced me to Sophie's family, his in-laws, the people who had been told I'd cut ties long ago. "This," Adam said proudly, "is my sister, the strongest person I know." Tears threatened to spill again, but this time they weren't from pain. They were from relief, from finally being seen. For the first time in years, I sat at the family table again. My mother poured me a glass of champagne herself, her hands trembling slightly as she did. The night went on, laughter, music, even dancing. But beneath it all was a quiet, tender peace, a mending of hearts that had been fractured for far too long. And as I watched Adam and Sophie share their first dance, I realized something simple but profound. Family isn't about perfection. It's about forgiveness. That night, as I stood outside beneath the string lights, I looked back through the windows of the hall. My brother was laughing with his bride. My mother was smiling, genuinely this time, and Morris was chatting with guests, pretending nothing extraordinary had happened. But for me, everything had changed. For years, I believed family was something you either had or lost. That once the bridge burned, it could never be rebuilt. But that night, I learned something different. Sometimes the truth doesn't destroy. It cleanses. It strips away the bitterness, leaving only what's real. The pain didn't vanish. The scars didn't disappear. But the silence that had once defined us was gone, replaced by something fragile yet beautiful. Understanding. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight finally lift from my chest. Maybe forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. Maybe it's about deciding that love is worth remembering more. And for the first time in years, I felt like I could go home.